Welcome to the Early Wedge Tuesday Best Bet Show. I am your host, Eric Cohen. We are here. It is the CJ CUP Byron Nelson. It's not the most entertaining tournament on tour, but hey, look at it this way. We have a signature event next week, and we have a major in 2 weeks. So that's something to be excited about. Last week, the Zurich Classic, we actually made some money for you guys. Sobel hit a top 20 with Jacob Bridgman, Chandler Phillips. Sia had a top 20 with JT Post and Keith Mitchell. Patrick had one at plus 250 with Justin Lauer and Chad Ramey, and I hit one with Carl Phillips and Michael Thorbjornsen. So, hey, we were crushing the top 20 market last week. Can we hit a winner with some longer shots this week? Let's bring in the stars of the show. We have the great Jason Sobel. You can find him pretty much everywhere. SiriusXM, BetMGM, writing his article, which is a must-read on a weekly basis. We have the host of the Early Edge every Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, the great golf bettor, one Sia Nejad, and then from CBSSports.com, the always entertaining Patrick McDonald, who I'm going to start with here. Patrick, before we get into storylines, let's talk about this article that apparently came out yesterday with the Tour Championship. Are we going to have a match play? Am I going to be happy? Did somebody listen to Sobel's ideas from last week? What's going on there?
Well, I think this whole social media parading of the idea that Golf Week reported is a really good, I guess, litmus test to see how people consume media, because no one read the end of the article where everyone's reporting that this is what the Tour Championship's going to be. And then if you scroll to the bottom, if you read it all, it said pretty much Adam Scott said that the format has lost support, and Kevin Kisner agreed. So although it was tossed out there, right, it was there'd be a cut to the round of 16 on Friday, 8 play on Saturday, and top 4 on Sunday, and numbers 5 through 8 play for their position was the new format potentially, but it seems like it's lost support. So bit of a nothing burger.
Sobel, did they listen to you with any of your ideas to make this happen?
No, look, I like the draft for the Zurich Classic, which is never going to happen. It's just an idealistic thought as to how we can make things a little more interesting. I was at the Arnold Palmer Invitational, and on Wednesday, I was sitting around on the par 3 17th hole, and I was interviewing players, and we did not get Scotty Scheffler. That's because when Scotty Scheffler came up, all of a sudden, magically, about 3 or 4 PGA Tour officials appeared, and they were talking him into trying to be on the side of match play for the Tour Championship. The number one player, who usually is in the driver's seat in the pole position for points going into the season finale, was not buying into it. And so I got a front row seat myself as to just what he thought and just what they were selling and what he was not buying, which I probably shouldn't be telling anybody about, but here we go. There it is.
Pays to watch live. Speaking of insider news gossip, we figure you're the guy for this one. So Colin Morikawa takes over Joe Greiner, who was previously on Justin Thomas's bag, formerly on Max Homa's bag. So what happened? Like, what's your take on the shakeup with JJ being out as Morikawa's caddy?
I don't know. Look, JJ Jakovic, I think, is one of the absolute best caddies out there. When we talk about very good caddies, we talk about how they work with their specific players. I have been very much on the side of JJ Jakovic, even when we've talked about Colin Morikawa not winning golf tournaments over the last year and a half. I've said I love the fact that he and JJ work so well together. And quite frankly, I love the way that JT and Matt Minister work together, and JT went and won without Minister on the bag. I think if anything, it shows us that caddies aren't as important as we'd like to think. It's a guy walking next to a player who gives me yardage, helps him pick a club, maybe tells them a story at some point where they're walking down the fairway. But at some point, these guys are going to hit the shots on their own anyway. But look, JJ Jakovic's a hell of a caddy. I thought he did a great job with Colin Morikawa. And if he's not on the bag with him anymore, he'll find another bag very, very shortly.
Sia, have you ever bet or had anything affected a bet when the caddy is involved?
No. I mean, listen, I had JT outright 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, great.
So yes.
Did it matter that Joe Greiner was on the bag for you?
I mean, not in terms of making the bet, but I mean, it does appear to have helped him.
I mean, yeah, it's kind of weird that a guy wins, and you can't. I mean, it's like a sports analogy. You can't lose your starting job because of an injury. That's what happened to JT's caddy. I guess he was hurt. Is that right, Sobel? He's been hurt, and it's just kind of an interesting deal there. That guy wins at the RBC Heritage, first time in 3 years, and caddy moves somewhere else. Kind of an interesting.
JT's done that before too. He won in Memphis with Bones when Bones filled in for 1 week.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, if JT ever has a substitute caddy, you know what to do. All right, let's start with storylines. Patrick McDonald is always a ray of sunshine when it comes to storylines. And this week is no exception. All right, Patrick, what do you got at TPC Craig Ranch?
TPC Craig Ranch, a big renovation this year, new irrigation system. I'm sure the viewers are going to love that one, but a pretty stinky golf course all around. It was zoysia grass fairways, which made, unbelievable lies on approach and around the greens. And they've changed that to ryegrass. It used to be Bermuda rough. That's ryegrass too now. So all in all, not a great golf course. Do these changes make it more difficult? I think the rough is kind of evens out where they're going to grow it out a little bit more, but it's not Bermuda, so it's not going to play as difficult. And I think maybe the ryegrass around the greens might make the chipping a little bit more difficult there. But with rain in the forecast there, I think the storms might get a little gnarly at some point throughout the weeks. Mid-20s, boring golf course, bomb it out there, and make a whole lot of putts.
So on one hand, we have Patrick who says, okay, this is a boring event, whatever. It's a birdie fest.
Whoa. Boring golf course.
Boring golf course. And then we have Sia Nejad who says, hey, we can still bet it and make some money. Do tell.
I mean, I think that every week, of course. I just think this, anytime you get into a birdie fest, it gets really interesting because the easy course and there's multiple ways to attack this course. You don't have to be a bomber. Of course, that certainly helps, but you can bet guys down the board and have some semblance of confidence. I think the problem with that, of course, is that Scottie Scheffler is at the top of the board. And as you'll learn later on in the show, I'm perfectly comfortable betting in the without market, even the without Scottie market and the without Scottie and a few others, because I still like the numbers. But the bottom line is, even if you want to bet in the with Scottie market at a course like this, Scottie, even if he's in great form, doesn't necessarily win here because it does even the playing field when it gets easier and it comes down to, hey, how many putts am I draining here? I think that 60-1, that 50-1, 40-1 range, even that 80-1 range, I think it's all live, which just makes for a fun tournament.
So this is like the three of you I trust you guys in tournaments like this where the superstars basically are not here for the most part. But then Sobel, we see that there is one superstar here and the rest of the field is lacking. Do explain your storyline.
So I filled in for Colton Ost on Gravy and the Sleeves yesterday on PGA Tour Radio, and we do a 6-pack, which apparently involves no actual alcoholic beverages, which I was sorry to hear. But Drew Stoltz brought up the fact that there's an internet meme going around that says, could 100 human males defeat one silverback gorilla? Apparently this thing is absolutely blowing up. My take is no. Have you seen a silverback gorilla? That thing would maul every single person that came around it. That said, it sounds like what we have this week at the CJ CUP Byron Nelson, which is, can 100 human males defeat Scottie Scheffler? My answer is they have a better chance against Scottie than silverback gorilla. How's that?
Sia, I trust you with random things in life that the rest of us can't figure out. What's your take on the gorilla versus 100 men?
It's Sia Nejad Esquire here, and I do need some clarification, Judge. Like when we say 100 men, what are we talking? Like we're talking grown men? I assume that's what we are perceiving, like grown men that have some semblance of strength and
you get to pick the rosters.
This has grown to the fact where Sia, it's people have talked about it on the internet. We're not talking UFC fighters, but we're talking about like grown men. It's not like little boys, not 5-year-olds. It's actual grown men, but not trained fighters.
Okay. My answer, a verdict has been rendered. I'm going with the 100 people over the silverback gorilla. There's a lot of strategizing involved. There's a lot of 10, 15 people on one leg, 10, 15 on another leg. There's a lot of different attack methods here. A simple plan will get that gorilla down.
Yeah,
No.
but I think what you're losing sight of, Sia, is when that plan ultimately goes out the window. Who among those 100 men are going to be like, you know what? I'm up next fighting this bad boy.
Right.
When the first 10 just get swiped away.
Yep.
Well,
Really
I mean,
can pull your arms out. Like just they're gone. Like he pulls your arms and throws them on the ground. He can bite harder than a lion or a shark. I don't know how you beat this.
100 is a lot, and it's like this is obviously like a death match type of thing. So it's not like they're going to run away. They in this scenario they have to win or they suffer the ultimate loss. So that's why I'm thinking all 100 are going in.
I think the correct 100 can win, but you have to construct this roster strategically. Random 100, you're done for.
I'm going to say Joe in the chat has the best response to this I've seen yet. Don't be one of the first 20 guys.
Correct.
Because you're a goner. Yeah. Go ahead, Sobel.
By the way, this sounds like a stupid internet discussion, which it really is. It's gotten so big that Newsweek did an article about this using ChatGPT, and it was like a 2,000-word article where they went through everything and they actually examined all the possibilities. Like, it's different if it's in an enclosed space, the gorilla can probably do some damage. If it's out in a big field where the 100 men can surround the gorilla, the men have an advantage. Like, I mean, there's a lot to this right now. It all depends, very much like in golf. We're going to win or lose this thing on the first tee.
We do call this the Best Bet Show. If this ever comes to fruition, we'll give out our picks here on the show. My storyline, a little bit like Sobel's. So if Scotty Scheffler doesn't win, if he's the gorilla and doesn't win against these 100 men, is it time to add him to the do not bet list with some kind of, qualification? I'm serious. So I did this Sobel, I did this last year. I put Scotty Scheffler on my do not bet list at anything under 10-1. He then proceeded to win 5 of the next 8 weeks, something like that. 5 of the next 8 tournaments he was in. But if Scotty Scheffler can't beat this field, don't you have legitimate concerns going forward?
No.
Sia, help me here. Somebody help me here.
I mean, I can't. This one I can't help you on. I tend to agree with your no bet list. I mean, listen. The truth is, if Scotty, let's say he doesn't win this tournament, if he's pretty much 8 or 7.5 to 1 anywhere, everybody's betting it because that's actually close, at least somewhat close to what his actual win equity is, and he's going to turn it on at some point. The fact is, Scotty's like putting. So once that ball striking comes around, we know it's going to. I mean, he's going to be winning some tournaments.
He's close.
Wrote about it this week. I think it's harder for a player like Scotty at a very short number to go out and win a golf tournament like this one, where I feel like when it's 30 under, 25 under par, it levels the playing field, and basically anyone has a chance. Go out and make a whole lot of birdie putts, and you can win the CJ CUP Byron Nelson. By the way, also. Throw out a little shout out to Turtle Man, who said, I tuned in. First thing I hear is the men surround the gorilla. And I like, which is exactly what I was thinking when we were talking about it. Like, someone's going to tune in right now and be like, what the hell are these guys doing?
If you don't hit the like button for that, you're not hitting the like button for anything.
I mean, Sia said it right there. Please follow the SportsLine page. Hit the like button on this video. If you like Gorilla Talk, you never know what you're going to get on this show. Speaking of guys not on the do not bet list, let's get to our first round leaders. Sobel, we'll start with you. You have a couple of players that I wouldn't even think about putting on the do not bet list because they're so out of the realm of possibility as is.
Yeah, look, this is a strange tournament. There's going to be a lot of weird things happening. I have a feeling that the first round leaders are guys that we haven't even considered. It's some guy that barely got in, that has Corn Ferry conditional status, that Monday'd in, something like that. I'm going with a couple of guys that we've seen some trending from in the last couple of weeks. Isaiah Salinda was part of the first round lead last week at the Zurich Classic. He and Kevin Velo shot 58 in the opening round of best ball at the Zurich Classic. I think it's a good course for Salinda. I don't completely trust him for a 4-round investment, but I do like him. So I'll take him at 65 to 1. And then Sammy Valamaki's been playing some great golf over the last month. 90 to 1 feels like a really nice number to chase him in the first round market. Again, I'm looking for players that I kind of like, players that can go low, players that are volatile, players that I don't necessarily have a 4-round investment in. And Valimaki's close. I could take him for a top 20, top 40 type of play in the finishing position market, but I do like both those guys for first round leader, which I look, I'm not playing anyone shorter than those numbers. I think it's going to be a very, very strange opening round.
And listen, you like to throw out something in every segment, which I appreciate. So you're throwing out some numbers that we can bet. So is Sia Nejad throwing out a 5-burger of numbers that we can bet. Let's hear them.
I wouldn't throw out 5 if these weren't all 60-1 or longer. And honestly, even then 5 is a little much here. What's interesting about this one, and when I look at the weather, and obviously the weather can change in the next 48 hours, is that it's going to be, like we see the weather here on the screen, 83 degrees. Like it's going to be certainly colder in the morning, which I do think is certainly not going to be super helpful for the morning group. But also I noticed that the wind and the wind gusts, while not bad at all, happen to be a little bit higher in the morning. So it kind of like, I've got mostly morning guys here. There's one guy here that's in the afternoon, but it kind of has me just a little hesitant, just leaning into that morning wave. With that said, if you don't want to take these 5, which of course is Jacob Bridgman, Jake Knapp, those are both at 60-1. Lee Hodges, Davis Riley, those are both at 80-1. And I agree with Sammy Valimaki at 90-1. I think my favorite 3, if you wanted to narrow it down, and these are just sprinkle bets, folks, it would be Jake Knapp. That's the one afternoon guy, Lee Hodges and Davis Riley. I like sort of the timing of when they go out. I like the numbers a lot as well. We're going to talk about all these guys later in the show. I happen to know that. Some of them are my picks in a lot of different areas. So I'm not going to get too involved here, but I will say when you look at guys like especially Hodges, Riley, Valimaki, these are guys that obviously can spike, but they can spike in a huge way in terms of like gaining against the field 3, 4, 5 strokes. These are the types of guys that do it. And I know that's what Jason Sobel's looking for too, in terms of, hey, maybe they can't do it for 4 rounds, but they can do it for 1. And when you look at the metrics, those 3 in the middle in particular, all 5 really, but actually the 3 at the bottom are really good in that department and just have in terms of just having that huge round gaining against the field.
We're throwing darts in this segment. Nothing wrong with that. So we got 6 different choices to throw darts at. I'm here for it. Let's make some money. Coming up next, we're going around the world. What the heck am I talking about? You'll find out next after we hear from one of our sponsors.
One of golf's elite courses, Quail Hollow, hosts the game's top players at the PGA Championship this May on CBS.
So Patrick didn't get the memo that we're going around the world in this segment. So he just wanted to give out one matchup with a guy, so the CJ Cup, I did a little homework on this. So Patrick, you could probably elaborate on that. The CJ Group is a South Korean company, right? So they're probably rooting for a South Korean player to win, right? That's probably a good storyline, right?
Yeah, a lot of BBGO stuff is going to be on there. A lot of good South Korean food also. Because, the CJ Cup used to be, it was in South Carolina down by me. 1 year at Congaree, which was awesome. Had the stint in Vegas, had the stint in South Korea, obviously, too. So anytime you can attach a South conglomerate sponsor with a legend of the game, I think you just have to. And so that's obviously what we got this week with the CJ CUP Byron Nelson. So my matchup is... Siwoo Kim minus 115 over Sam Burns. And I'll be the first to admit, I had very high hopes for Sam Burns coming into 2025. I thought the iron play took a step in the right direction at the end of 2024. And lo and behold, for the first time ever, I was incorrect. And instead, we get Siwoo Kim, who has played well at this golf course. He finished runner-up to Jason Day a couple years back. He's playing well right now. Was in that final group with Justin Thomas there at RBC Heritage with the 54-hole lead. So I'm not going to overthink it. Guy who plays well at this golf course and a guy who's playing well against a guy who also plays well at this golf course but isn't playing well. So I'm going to take Siwoo at minus 115.
Okay, respect it. We have the theme with the sponsor. I'm here for it. Sobel actually looked at this one. We're going to the top Englishman, and you're rolling with Harry Hall over quite the list of people, including one that I've never heard of before.
Look, this is kind of a weird one. Harry Hall, plus 160. Matt Wallace doesn't do a whole lot for him. He played okay last week at the Zurich. David Skins hasn't been very good this year. Paul Waring, no thank you. Chris Kim, last time I checked, he was like 16 years old, so I'm guessing he's like 17 now. So that one doesn't scare me too much. Harry Hall is very good. He's good with the driver, good with the putter. He looks like Bryson DeChambeau. Doesn't hit it nearly as far. Hits it about half as long as Bryson does off the tee. But I do think that Harry Hall's short game can lead to a whole lot of birdies this week. And so at plus 160 to beat that group, which I would think the top English group would be a whole lot better than what we have this week. But It's just a very inferior field, and I will take him at that number very easily. I think that's a great number to play him at.
That's a great bet. Now, we can all win in this segment because, Sia, you're fading Harry Hall, but that's okay. If Lee Hodges beats all the Englishmen, we're good, right?
Exactly. I mean, first of all, I really like the plus 160. I mean, I would be, I guess, a little afraid of Matt Wallace, David Skins for 4 rounds, assuming some of these guys go 4 rounds. I'm not super afraid of. I think I would have priced that at like plus 130, in spite of the fact that I do kind of like Matt Wallace. Not enough to bet him in this market. I think that plus 160 is just absolutely a great number. But again, I've got Lee Hodges over Harry Hall. That's more pro Lee Hodges than it is a fade of Harry Hall. I just like everything Lee Hodges does. I like the long iron play. He can get hot with the putter, as can Harry Hall. It's just with Harry Hall, his form has been a little off as of late in 2025, and that's sort of where I'm heading with the Lee Hodges play. But again, I don't think this pick and Jason's pick contrast as much as they think, and I know you set it up that way, EC. So yeah, like Lee Hodges there at minus 110. That one, by the way, just so everybody knows, was over at BetMGM. I can't remember if it was at some of the other books as well. Also at BetMGM, along with all the other books, is Top Japanese. I do have to point out, though, Ryo Hisatsune, who, EC, you're on. I gave this out on the early edge this morning as well, EC. I'm really glad we're on the same page here because that usually works out well for us. BetMGM actually has this at plus 105. So in all candor, like the better price you're going to get is probably at FanDuel and DraftKings for this particular market. I do want to point that out because, again, it's plus 105 at BetMGM. But again, I just think Hisatsune has been playing so well. His last 5 tournaments, he's made the cut in each of them. 2 top 20s and 2 like T18, and then he's got 2 top 5s on top of that. He's just playing really well. And Kanaya, Hoshino, and Onishi, just not guys that offer any level of consistency whatsoever. Hisatsune is just really outclassing them right now. So give me the plus money there, plus 135.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on the Rio pick. And honestly, I've never heard of Hoshino and Onishi. I couldn't tell you one thing. I didn't even know they were golf. Am I supposed to know that, Sobel? Who are these?
They play on the PGA Tour.
What's a golf podcast? What do you mean you don't know who that?
I don't know who that. I know who Kanaya is. I don't know who. Has Hoshino ever
admit that stuff? Come on.
Have they even played in a tournament this year?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes,
well, I've never seen them anywhere.
Very good professional golfers. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Onishi won the American Express, ET.
He what?
He won the American Express.
No, he didn't. I know that. I've never heard of these guys, so that's why I got to fade him, and Rio's playing good golf. All right, I'm going with Aldrich Potgieter. I think I got that right, over Eric Van Rooyen and Christo Lamprecht. I mean, listen, all 3 of these guys, none of them are playing real well, but this is a birdie fest, and I kind of look at the Mexico Open as the same type of event, and we saw Aldrich go low there, probably should have won and kind of collapsed down the stretch, but we don't really need him to win here. We just need him to beat these other 2 guys who could very well miss the cut, and all of them are priced similarly, so I'm going to go with the Aldrich Potgieter as the top African/South African in matchups this week, as well as Sia's bet of Rio. I don't know the right. Is it Hisatsune? How do we?
So I think it's a Hisatsune with the emphasis on like that first syllable as opposed to Hisatsune. But that's my best guess. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Sia's pronunciation of Hisatsune is much better than EC's of Potgieter.
Did I not get that one?
No,
no. Picks international markets that he can only butcher names for.
Yeah. EC, from now on, you can take Smith over Jones, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Listen, it's better than Hoshino and Onishi in here. I don't even know who these guys are. All right. Coming up, all right, let's talk about, here we go. It's time for our top finishing positions. I don't think we have any difficult names in this one. So we'll start with Patrick with it. Oh, I can pronounce this one. A guy that lives in Arizona, one Joel Damon.
Yeah, he's been really good on golf courses, like you mentioned, Mexico Open with a heavy driver usage rate. You look at the Mexico Open, T6 there, Houston, T18, Torrey Pines, another one like that, Farmers Insurance Open a couple months ago, T9. Obviously played great there in Corrales, should have won that golf tournament, didn't happen. I like that he missed the cut alongside Harry Higgs last week at the Zurich Classic, got to blow some steam off, kind of forget about that tournament and get right back on the schneid. So top 40 finish here at plus 140, I think is more than palatable.
Yeah, no argument there. Now this one's interesting, and I know we're going to talk about him later in the show. Sobel, what do you like about Jordan Spieth?
Look, I've broken down the numbers. I know we can sit here and say Jordan Spieth's an enigma. You don't know what you're going to get on a given week. Quite frankly, I've gone through it all, and he's played 9 times this year. When he putts well, he finishes well, and when he doesn't putt well, he doesn't finish well. I mean, that's all it comes down to. I think that at the Nelson, where he understands these greens from playing this golf course since he was this tall, and I do think that he's going to go out and play some good golf again. I think that low scoring levels the playing field, so I don't want to necessarily play him for an outright. Top 10 might be a little too aggressive, and maybe you want to go a little more conservative, something around top 20 for closer to an even money play. But I think top 10 makes a whole lot of sense at plus 180. And then I think Lee Hodges is one of the more underrated players on the PGA Tour. The ball striking is really good. He's won before on the PGA Tour. He's not trying to get that first win like so many others. Plus 250 for a top 20 is a great number, I think, on him this week. And he's a guy that underrated means undervalued. As long as he remains undervalued in these markets and inferior type fields like this one, I will continue playing him.
Hey, can I just add a little bit to that? Because Hodges was going to be one of my finishing position plays. I was kind of toggling back and forth between basically 4 guys, and Hodges would have been, in fact, he really was one of the first ones, and I ended up putting Jacob Bridgman there. But what I want to point out is that top 20 plus 250, top 30, which is a market that only some books have, is plus 175. And just so everybody knows, if you want to play it, quote, safe, which is not really a thing in golf, but you see what I'm doing here, top 40 is plus 105. I really like Lee Hodges as well. So I just kind of want to double down on the top 20. And I think if for some reason you wanted to be like a little bit more conservative, you could play the top 40 market and then ladder it up like you would like a wide receiver prop in the NFL and like sprinkle a little bit on the top 30 and a little bit on the top 20 and just try to clip them all.
Fair enough. Now give us your picks here. Obviously Bridgman, Valimaki, you and I love when you and I see eye to eye, Sia.
Yeah, we do a lot on this show. Again, Valimaki is a guy that you can dig in the top 40 market and still get a plus number. But Valimaki is one of those guys that the upside is so strong that you could even really do a top 20 on Valimaki, because if he's on, he's going to really be on with that approach play and with the putter. But I love the plus 210, top 30. And then Jacob Bridgman, top 30. I think he played here last year. This is plus 125. He missed the cut, but he's such a different player now. And I just really like, I will point out that some of the course comps, like he didn't really necessarily play well at, but I still think he can get so hot with the putter. I like his long irons. I think top 30 is a solid fit for a guy who I think can win this tournament.
Fair enough. Valimaki, by the way, in 2 trips in Texas, a 4th and a T12. I think we're not asking a lot for that top 30, getting a number at, plus 210, which I like. All right, I got a trivia question for you guys. Do we know what school? I'll start with Sobel here. He probably knows this.
Ooh.
Where did Nate Lashley go to college?
Oh, University of Arizona.
That's exactly right. And that's why we talk about him on the show, because I know that Sia is such a big fan of the University of Arizona, a.k.a. my alma mater, that we try to bring it up as much as we can. Go ahead there.
You see, I wrote about him. This is not going to be a fun story. I wrote about his parents going to see him when he was playing in college, and they got in a plane crash, and they died in the plane crash, and he went on to have a PGA Tour career. Not a fun story, but at some point, he's going to do some really good things. Already won on the PGA Tour. He's going to win again, and that story is going to become even bigger when people kind of find out more about it. I feel like it really hasn't kind of touched a lot of people out there outside of the general like diehard golf population, but Nate's a very good dude.
Yeah, that happened when I was in school, obviously at the same time as Lashley. I've never met him, but it was so sad. But I have, friends out here since he lives in Arizona that are just say he's a great guy, and just, terrible circumstances that happened to him when he was younger. Getting back to golf, though, he's playing some pretty darn good golf. T27 and T12 in the 2 Texas events this year. Last week, I know it doesn't mean much. It was the Zurich, but he was T18 with Hayden Springer. In the 2 rounds that he was playing on his own, he made 11 birdies. And he has 2 top 25s here in 4 trips. Here we're going to give him a shot at a plus 210 number for Nate Lashley for the top 40. Coming up next, I don't think we have to worry much about the do not bet list, but we'll take a look before we make our outright picks here after we hear from one of our sponsors.
We dig it. Do you? the Pro Volleyball Federation on CBS Sports Network.
Oh, I think this week I feel like I'm in the clear. I don't think I'm looking at the outright board. Nobody has anybody on this. We don't see a lot of people in this event. Keith Mitchell withdrew. Sung Jae Im and Will Zalatoris playing like garbage. Sung Jae Im might be the only danger here. Patrick, am I wrong here? Do I need to worry about Sung Jae here? Really?
Sung Jae is coming from South Korea, where he was defending the Woori Financial Group Championship, and he missed the cut. So long flight and not playing great golf, despite the kind of random top 5 there at the Masters. Zalatoris is, got to keep an eye on him. He's 88th in the FedEx Cup and doesn't have status beyond this year. So
wow,
really? So do you think? So how would you interpret that to betting going forward? Are you going to take a longer look and saying, all right, this guy's going to get more desperate as the season goes along? His game's not great right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's mostly putter. The irons are still pretty solid if you're looking at that. And he's in the signature events, which definitely helps. It'll just really take 1 week for him.
So, but we're going to start with you on this one. A guy that you and I are on as far as OAD. I don't want to ruin it, but as far as outrights, but I really like Benny on this week. Usually a Patrick McDonald favorite, but so do you at 25-1. Yeah, don't you like Benny on?
I don't think I've ever bet on Benny on.
Throw it out there. You love him. Come on, just admit you love him.
Patrick, come on. You know you do.
One of my guys. Him and my boy Scotty, my best friend Scotty.
I'm not sure I've ever bet Benny on before, but I picked him out this week. And look, I do this stuff Friday, Saturday, Sunday before the odds come out. And quite frankly, I would have liked a little bit better number than 25-1 on Ben on. I knew it was going to be shorter than usual, but I figured with Scotty and Spieth and Sungjae in the field, maybe that keeps it in the 30-1, 35-1 range. We didn't get close to that. I'll still take him at 25-1 because I like him. He's been 14th and 4th here the last 2 years, trending in the right direction. He's playing some good golf. If he's ever going to win, I do think it's going to be a birdie fest where you just go out and shoot 63 in one of these rounds and hang on and keep making birdies. He's not the best putter in the world. I don't know if everyone's paid attention to that for a while, but it's only been 10 years on the PGA Tour. He's only made a couple of putts in that time. That said, hopefully it turns all around this week. If it doesn't, I've got backing him up. Where's my boy in the chat? Where's my guy?
Yeah, where's Jeff Stenberg?
Jeff, where you at?
He's absent. This is his moment. He's missing it.
Come on, Jeff. Did this for you. Thor Bjornsson playing some really good golf right now. He was runner-up at the Corrales Punta Cana a couple of weeks ago. He was tied for 4th last week with Carl Phillips at the Zurich. And look, I love taking these young players who are starting to find it before the books have kind of figured out that they are ready to go out and win. I think we play them. And so 70-1, I think is a really good number. And Alejandro Tosti might be my favorite of my 3 outright plays. I mean, forget the number. I just think Alejandro Tosti can go out and win this golf tournament, playing some great golf over the last month. And this is a perfect golf course for him. Essentially, hit it far, be aggressive, and go make lots of birdies. That's his game, and I like everything about Tosti this week.
It's a great number, 90-1 on Tosti, who's an aggressive player. I think we remember him. He drove the green. He's the only one to drive the green at that short par 4 at the PGA last year. Was that what?
Yep.
Remember? Yeah,
great pool.
Yeah. There you go. That's got to give Tosti some props for that. Patrick, you're going single bullet here. Is this really a thing with Jordan Spieth?
I thought about it, and I could have bet Damon, could have bet Celinda, throwing Matt McCarty in there for fun, maybe a little Taylor Moore action also. And I was like, I'd just have more fun betting on Jordan Spieth. And look, it's okay to have fun betting sometimes, right? Should this number be doubled of what it is? Yes, that's always the case with Jordan Spieth. But like Sobel said, the numbers are pretty solid. He's 3rd in this field in total strokes gained the last 3 months. Would you believe that? Granted,
nope.
It's pretty far behind Scotty Scheffler, who's number 1, but still number 3. It's all about how you frame things. The putter has been solid. He's putting like pretty similar to that 2017 season, believe it or not. And it'll just come down to the approach play. If he has a great iron week, he's going to contend at this tournament. If he doesn't, he'll finish T17. So I'm hoping for the former at 18-1.
Fair enough. Okay.
And that Celinda, Matt McCarty, all those guys don't win because I just named them.
It pays to watch live, so you have some extra picks from Patrick McDonald. Being around Sia Nejad on these shows makes me smarter. Makes a lot of us smarter. You and I, we bet when our outrights, when you can, and the number's not too different, you take out some of the players. Sia, explain your rationale for Bridgman, Knapp, and Gerard.
Well, I think it's just such a nice segue with what Patrick just said. We are trying to have fun and we're trying to make money and we're trying to look for big numbers. And if the number gets smaller, at least, a little bit smaller, because we don't want to deal with Scotty Scheffler or a guy like Ben Ann, who obviously Jason Sobel likes, or a guy like Jordan Spieth, who Patrick McDonald likes, or last year's winner, Taylor Pendrith. I mean, I'm not so sure I'm scared with Taylor and Sung J M, to be honest with you, relative to Scotty and maybe Jordan and Ben An. But truth is, I'm not losing that many points here. So I'm going to take Jacob Bridgman in the without Ben An, Jordan Spieth, Scotty Scheffler, Sung J M, and Taylor Pendrith market at 35-1 as opposed to 50-1. And just so everybody understands what I do in those scenarios, let's say I would put $15 on Jacob Bridgman at 50-1, which is the true number in the width market, if you will. Well, now I'm going to put $20 on 35-1, which, by the way, it's not 1-for-1. I'm still losing about $50 in that scenario in terms of the payout. But this is not a big deal. Yes, I'm losing the number, but I'm just putting a few extra bucks to make up for it. That's how I deal with it. Jake Knapp in the same without market at 40-1. I just got a feeling about Jake Knapp. I think these are the types of tournaments Jake Knapp can win. I love what he's done with the approach play so far this year. We know he can do it off the tee. We know he can do it with the putter. Ryan Gerard, same thing at 40-1, coming in pretty hot, can really have that low round. And we know he can have a good 4 rounds at the same time. So Jacob Bridgman, Jake Knapp, Ryan Gerard.
All right. You and I kind of are sharing Jake Knapp here. You tweeted, first click on Monday morning. Jake Knapp was my first click. Just one of those things, he won in Mexico last year, one of those birdie fests. He's 12th on tour for birdie average. He is 19th best for bogey avoidance, which is good. So he's not going to make as many bogeys, which is great. I don't know why he picked Frankie Sapon III last week at
no way. Did you really just do that? I would have thought you would have Capin or something.
What is it? I don't know.
That's I
heard somebody say Sapon. I went with Sapon.
That's the fourth derivation of where I thought you would go, as opposed to the second or third.
Help me here, Sobel.
The do not bet list should all be just guys that you can't pronounce, and you're not allowed to bet them.
Apparently, we found a new shtick each week on the show.
Such an elegant pronunciation.
So Frankie III was with Knapp last week. I don't know why Knapp picked Frankie III, but they finished solo third at the Zurich. So, hey, good for that. Knapp's playing pretty good. So we'll take a shot there. He had 10 birdies and an eagle in 2 rounds of solo play. So we'll give him a shot at 40-1. Mackenzie Hughes, listen, he has 2 straight top 10s. He had a 10th in Houston and T3 at Harbortown. This course might be a little long for him. I don't really love the number, but in this without market at 30-1, ride the hot play. The guy can putt like nobody's business, and he has finishes of T14 and T41 here. So we'll take a shot at a 30-1 number. And then we're going with Rio. I'm not even trying the last name again. The Japanese 23-year-old phenom. As Sia mentioned earlier, 2 top 5s in his last 4 individual events. I'll take it. So we're going to give him a shot at 45-1. Go ahead. Yeah.
Jason, you go first.
Yeah. So here, look, I like all of your picks, EC. I like all of your picks, Sia. They make a whole lot of sense. Mm-hmm. Since when did the without market become, without him and him and him and him and him and him? I get the without Scotty Scheffler market. He's a really short number. He's the best player in the world. He's playing this field because he's from Texas, and he's playing against a bunch of guys he doesn't normally play against. Okay, that's fine. We want to avoid Scotty. Why is there a without Taylor Pendrith market? A without Ben An market? Ben An's won no tournaments. He won 0 golf tournaments. Why do we have to avoid him in the outright market with other players? I don't.
I get it. No, you're right.
Folks are scared, man.
What are we trying to avoid?
So I'll say this. It is kind of ridiculous that they're giving us that option. And obviously they're doing it because they're benefiting off people taking those numbers. But again, for me, it goes back to, am I okay with betting Jacob Bridgman at 35-1 and Jake Knapp at 40-1? Because if the answer is yes, then I want to take out as many people as possible. And like the true difference, and to your point, Jason, like it is 5 points. Like if you just do the without market instead of those other 4 guys, instead of that 35, it's 40. Instead of those 40s, it's 45. So it's literally like a 5-point swing. And for me, I'm like, all right, well, they're giving me, granted, there's a hold there and they're benefiting from it, but like I get 4 extra guys that are at the top of the board. And so again, when it comes to like the math, no, but when it comes to like having fun and having the peace of mind to know that I have like extra people I don't have to deal with, that's sort of where I'm going with it. I don't like to do it in a lot of tournaments, but I have done it 2 or 3 times so far. And that's why.
I don't disagree with the play, and I'm not questioning what you guys are doing here. And I like the plays themselves. I'm just questioning the books putting out, like, again, without certain players who have never won. Like, what are we trying to avoid? We're trying to avoid players. And look, Ben On's a guy that I picked this week. So I understand that I like him and I think he can go out and win, but we're trying to avoid guys in the without market who have literally never won on the PGA Tour before.
Yeah, I'm with you. I thought it was a strange list when they came out with it, but the odds were not that much different than without Scotty Scheffler alone, which I still would have played without Scotty. So I said, and for me, who's parlaying, Cerundolo over Zverev with my golf picks, that hit at plus 170 this morning. So I'll take the hits where we can get them. That's what you got. A couple points on the odds board, not going to make a difference. Paul, this is for you. Giannis Antetokounmpo. Is that good? Are you happy with that?
That was good.
Thank you.
That was good.
There's no pronunciation guide here. That one I can do. I cannot get Sapon, whatever his name is. I can't do that. But I got Giannis's name. So there you go. Let's talk about LIV. Yeah, I'm trying here, Patrick.
Frankie Sapon.
Is that Sapon?
You got it. You nailed it.
It's Sapon.
You nailed
Frankie
it.
the Third is perfect.
Frankie the Third is what we're sticking with that.
Sounds like somebody from The Sopranos.
Just like Rio, the Japanese phenom. We're just going to stick to that. Sobel, you love the LIV scheduling. I'm sure how they go from Mexico to Korea in 1 week. That makes a ton of sense. But you and I are still going to pick it. Who you got?
Look, I'm going with Patrick Reed. I don't believe this is a very long golf course. Again, I'm going to preface all of my LIV picks on this show from here through Evermore because I'm not spending a whole lot of time on these, quite frankly. Patrick Reed plays shorter golf courses well. He plays around the world really well. He cares, which is more than 90% of the guys that are playing the LIV events. So I'll take Patrick Reed. And then Kevin Na hasn't played well the last few events on LIV, but I know he's very prideful of being a South Korean, even though he was born in the U.S. I think he's got U.S. citizenship. I know he likes to go over there, and I will take Kevin Na just to play well in front of the South Korean crowds, but at a big number, why not? Like, look, you're not putting all your money on my LIV picks. That's all I can say. Like, hey, do it, have some fun. Those are my picks. You do your own research because I'm certainly not spending nearly as much time on LIV plays as I am with everything else.
I'm going to go with a single bullet here for LIV. Really not going too deep down the board. In fact, I'm going to take the favorite, John Rahm at plus 600. This is a Faders golf course in Korea. He's 6 for 6 in top 10s on LIV this year. In fact, every LIV tournament that he's ever finished, he's finished in the top 10. Pretty darn impressive. His driver and putter on point, and he's kind of long overdue here. The odds stink. I don't like him, but you ask me who's going to win. I think John Rahm's going to win at 6-1. Played well enough. Last week.
Faders golf course.
Faders golf. I read that, Patrick. I can't tell you much about the Nicholas golf course in Korea.
Behave yourself, son.
I'm trying. I mean, listen, I don't know if that's worse than my last name pronunciation, but let's move on to long shots here. We have in the history of this show, I don't think anyone has ever given out as much of a long shot as Sia Nejad is in this segment ever. 400-1. Sia.
Well, so I want to go back to a comment earlier. Somebody asked, hey, I'm surprised you didn't have Ben on as a first round leader. They weren't directing it to me, but they said they liked that. Forgive me, I can't see the name, but I did have Ben on. And then I decided, I looked at the weather and I'm like, I do want to include at least one afternoon guy. And I love Jake Knapp so much in this tournament and kind of in general. So I added him to my first round leader market, took away Ben on. So hopefully that doesn't bite me. But if that ends up coming true, and I absolutely think Jake Knapp is alive to be a first round leader. Well, clearly I like him to potentially win this tournament, even though I did bet him in the without market. I certainly think it's viable that one of those 5 in the without market certainly win this tournament. And Jake Knapp could be one of those guys. So at 400-1, I mean, this is one of those like flex bets, right? This is a put $2 on it, and maybe somebody else puts maybe $1 on it. And maybe you want to put 50 cents on this because you're still going to win $200. I think it's possible that a guy like Jake Knapp could go wire to wire, and it's very fun. I don't ever make these bets, but it's very fun to throw out a 400 to 1 that I actually think maybe quite possibly is potentially feasible.
And if you hit that, we'll all celebrate and you'll get a tax form. So there you go. Because anything over 300 to 1, you get the tax form. Speaking of tax forms, actually, no, you won't need one for the Sobel. What is this? You're giving out a 15 to 1. I'm not allowed to give out 15 to 1s anymore. And this is what you're giving us?
I was going to throw in another name for the bad boy parlay that I cooked up here. Alejandro Tosti and Patrick Reed, guys that you probably don't want to play golf with, but you can certainly bet on them for top 10s this week. I put my long shots with my regular outrights. I mean, long shots is what we're doing initially for this tournament this week. So I wasn't going to save my Thor Bjornsson and Toasty plays for later in the show. I figured I'd just put them with my regular outright. So you can put them in there. I had a guy on the PGA Tour champions I was going to throw in for a top 10 as well, but I feel like his misgivings are not on par with Toasty and Reed, and so I didn't want to group them all together as the bad boys of golf, and I didn't feel like that was fair, so I'll just leave Toasty and Reed there together.
15 plus 1580.
Figure it out.
I respect it. Go ahead, Patrick.
I'm just thinking.
You can figure it out.
Yeah.
Don't think too hard.
I got to see the field list.
So let me show you how you get Scotty Scheffler at 95 to 1. This is how you got to bet. Okay. Scotty Scheffler to win. Ben On, who Sobel given out as an outright, a top 5 with ties. Mackenzie Hughes, who I like, top 10 with ties, 95 to 1. I mean, for
easy.
A couple bucks. Yeah, easy.
Easy.
This top 20 parlay, Jordan Spieth, Patrick likes him. Jake Knapp, Sia likes him. Toasty, Jason likes him. And Zach Johnson, who is everybody's favorite Ryder Cup captain, almost 97 to 1 on this parlay. Zach Johnson finished 20th here last year, by the way. So actually playing pretty well. Top 10 at the Masters. I'm just saying, 97 to 1. There are worse bets with ties for this long shot column.
I like these this week, EC.
You good with that? You good with those?
Maybe my favorite 2 ever.
Wow. Just remember, do not bet Scotty Scheffler outright at plus 260 when you can get him at 95 to 1. Just remember that. Let's move on to one and done. Sia Nejad is just crushing all of us in one and done. He is 6th. Yeah, exactly. He is 6th overall. He's just trailing Smooth Bid 1430 in the early wedge splash pool standings. But Sia could win this thing. And Sia's pick this week has a pretty good chance. I don't want to talk about my ranking. Patrick, you and I got to pick it up.
How do I get ahead of you?
I've been at the bottom all the time. I stink.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I stink. All right, Sia, what do you got for us this week? How are you going to make more money and climb the leaderboard?
It would be almost silly for me to put out a 400 to 1 wire to wire bet on Jake Knapp without picking him as my one and done. And the truth is, like, obviously, I think I've used Scotty. I actually can't remember, but like, there's really nobody at the top of the board that I'm like, oh yeah, like this is his turn. Like I got to take him. I'm just going to go down the board. It was between him and Ben On in full candor. But oh no, it's not Ben On. Everyone, I changed that to Jake Knapp. So that's probably what Matt is doing right now. Sorry. Sometimes I change my pick in the middle of it. I might've had Ben On in there originally, but it is Jake Knapp for me. I think he can win. And honestly, this isn't a big purse, so I don't think I'm taking a huge chance. If he does win, I might be in first place next week.
Patrick, who are you going with?
Changing picks? Yeah, well.
No, he had it. He was right. Yeah, yeah, Jake Knapp.
I don't know.
He was right. Yeah, he had it right.
We might need to talk about that.
I approve it. I approve it.
Who made you the commissioner?
I can't wait till we all guilt Sia into, after he wins the whole thing, like donating this money to charity or something like that. We have to get on board with that.
Hey,
if I money on the line,
there might be there's some award on
$1,000. $1,000.
Yeah, there's real money involved.
If I win, I'm not even sure I can take it.
Well, now I'm gonna try,
but I won't. I'll give it to charity, or I'll do whatever. I got to get with legal. I'm legal. I got to get with legal on what to do with that.
With me,
I'll get with me to see how we handle that, because I don't think it's right for me to. I'm not going to win anyway, but I am sick.
It's going to be like Severance. You're talking to your innie on the video camera. It's like, can I trust you? No, give me the money. I'm going to go, now that I know this is for thousands of dollars, and I'm playing for charity, obviously. I'm going to go with Jordan Spieth as my one and done this week, because he's just going to win. It's as simple as that.
Sobel, you and I
and
think
then the PGA coming along, it's going to be beautiful.
Yeah.
It's what everybody wants to see, Jordan Spieth. We do want to see him win. It's been a long time.
It would be cool.
Sobel, you and I thinking alike this week. I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing for your pick, but congrats.
No, it's a bad thing for you. This is not like a kumbaya moment. Like, wow, we feel
I'm in
the
last
same
place.
way. We're taking the same guy. No, I went into the rundown. I saw you took Ben on, and then I said, okay, I'm ahead of EC. I'm going to take Ben on. I won't be in last place no matter what next week. I'll still be ahead of you. So I might do this every week from now on.
You know what? I'm going to wait until the end now. Now that I have this thought, I have to pass Sobel. All right, speaking of Sobel, as producer Matt brings up the recap screen, which is a beauty to look at every week, it is time for one of our favorite segments on the show, Sobel Story Time from the CJ CUP Byron Nelson. What do you got for us?
I am not going to do this story justice. I'm going to need more time for this, but I'm wearing my Byron Nelson shirt right here back in 2012 on what would have been the 100th birthday of the late Byron Nelson. I went and spent a couple days with Peggy, his widow, and she is what the older folks would call a spitfire. She is full of energy and full of life, and we went to all of his favorite old haunts, his church and his diner, and we walked around the ranch and we hung out. I mean, Lord Byron was just one of the great men in the game of golf. There's a famous quote from, I believe it was his pastor during his funeral, who said, we can debate which man was the greatest golfer of all time, but there is no debate which golfer was the greatest man. It was Byron Nelson. He did so many cool things for so many people. A ranch hand on his ranch, Fairway Ranch it's called, told me the story of how he had never even considered playing golf. He talked to Byron one day, and Byron said to him, this is called a 9-iron. I want you to go take this sack of balls and go out in the field, and when you hit 3 of them that are pretty good and get up in the air, come back and tell me about it. And so this ranch hand, who had never even thought about playing golf before, came back and hit 3 balls in the air and came back and told Mr. Nelson about it. He said, okay, well, here's an 8-iron. I want you to try it with this one. And he came back the next week and said, okay, I did it with that one. Pretty soon, after about a month or two, he had a full set of Byron Nelson's old clubs. He wound up going back to college at Texas A&M. He took a course in golf. He took golf instruction, and the instructor said, where did you learn to play? He said, well, Byron Nelson taught me, which is a pretty cool story. There are a ton of cool stories from back in the day of Byron Nelson, but Peggy was great. It was great just getting to relive everything from his life. We found the house that he grew up in. It was in an unincorporated town on a road that didn't have a name back when he lived there. We're talking like 1912 is when he was born. So we're trying to find, we actually wound up finding the house that he was born in. We just kind of sat outside in it for a while. She got a little emotional, but it was a great couple of days being there and just kind of living in his footsteps a little bit.
Man, the things that you've seen and done in the golf world, that's a cool one. That's a really good one. Great story. And, last week's story, if you missed out on last week's story at the Zurich Classic, I still think that's my favorite Sobel story yet. And you can Google Chris Couch and look up Sobel's story from 2013, I believe. I went through that. That was something. So take a look at that one. Always great to have Sobel story time during the recap screen. Thanks to producer Matt, who does a great job with this show. For Patrick McDonald, Jason Sobel, and Sia Nejad, I am Eric Cohen. And as I always like to say, let's hit it big. Good luck.